Welcome to the place where we learn about and learn from the leaders in our field who are powering human creativity. I am Aaron Dworkin, and this is Arts Engines. Thanks again for joining me here on Arts Engines. Today's guest is Vince Paul, who serves as the president and artistic director of Detroit's Music Hall Center for the Performing Arts. Vince, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Aaron. Great to be here.
I am so excited to talk to you. I have been very, very lucky and honored to be able to know you and your work over decades. You are, of course, one of our extraordinary cultural leaders and general leaders of our community in Detroit, in Southeast Michigan, regionally and nationally. So I am just excited to have you on the show. So welcome, welcome.
Thanks very much. Yes, it's true. Detroit is, it's unusual. You say, oh, Detroit's like, other towns. Yeah, no.
We really are unique, and Music Hall is one of those jewels that makes us so unique. And what I thought I would actually do is if we could even just dive in, because everybody knows about Music Hall and all that, but you've got some unique things that you're working on right now. And I would love to kind of delve into these, especially to try and get into your mindset as a leader, because I think so many people in our audience would love to kind of see that. Because you have not only the breadth of programming at Music Hall, if you could kind of share, but also now a major project in terms of a building project. So wondering if you could just kind of talk about that, but also how the programming kind of even led to this point and what makes your programming so unique.
Sure. I'm a Detroit native. Right, I was born on the West Side, but most of my career was in New York. So I did tour around the world quite a bit. As a production manager, executive director, impresario, eventually, I got to know, many world cultures. And boy, didn't that remind me of my hometown. So when they invited me to come back home and run the music hall, it wasn't really about producing individual shows that were interesting. It was really about the totality of the programming. Can we use the performing arts to change culture? Well, of course we can. And we can do that with programming. So 17 years ago, someone once said to me, Vince, first thing you need to know is Detroit isn't one city. It's 25 towns. And what they were saying is it's a very diverse place, and there's 25 different, cultural backgrounds here, and they're all maybe 200,000-300,000 strong, adding up to 5.5 million people. So we said, well, what we really believe in is uniting our different demographics and silos together. And so we started doing multicultural programming. We probably produce more Bollywood performances than anybody in America. Why? Because we have 450,000, first and second generation Indians that live here. Our resident orchestra is the National Arab Orchestra. So what we're doing is we are reaching into these pockets all in the same house. And so they're bumping into each other. So we're tearing down those silos, those walls of fear about their neighbors. And that worked, Aaron. It took us a really long time, but we knew it would. It was a long ball approach. But we don't look at the music hall like a theater. It is a theater. It smells like a theater. It looks like a theater. I know. But really, we think of it more as a community center. So if you look at the totality of our programming, it eventually started to self-perpetuate. So we went from a $3 million annual budget to today we're at a $14 million annual budget, and the calendar is busting at the seams. So it won't come as a surprise, or maybe it will, that we're going to build an expansion. And the expansion is literally the parcel adjacent to Music Hall. And this parcel is very important in Detroit because we have here in our little district 4 sports teams, 3 stadiums, and 7 theaters essentially adjacent to each other. We move 40 million people through here. It's the most attended, best-selling entertainment district in the country. People go, what? We're on Times Square. And I'm like, Ford Field alone has 80,000 seats, which is like 3 times the amount of seats. So you begin to say, oh, well, what is that really? What that is cultural impact, because that parcel next to the music hall is so visible. So it's really important. What do you put there? Well, first of all, it would be awful if we put, I don't know, a CVS or something there, So we really needed to think very carefully about how do we program this parcel? Well, our multicultural programming worked so well here at the music hall. It was time tested, proven that we're going to carry that over into the expansion. And you'll see in the expansion where we elevate certain sectors of the cultural industry, here in Detroit. We're going to focus on our music. It's low. I know it sounds low hanging fruit, like duh, but we really don't have that kind of place, So you'll see a music academy, non-for-profit music academy, because we do a lot of education here as a service provider in the school district. But our parents are always like, well, where do we go after school? I'm like, we need to work on that. And Detroit, we like to say, has presented more, has created more performers of world renown, right, than any community in history. We're like the music capital. Sorry, Nashville or anybody else, but we're the incubator, we're the cradle. They come from here. But we've really been marginalizing a lot of the infrastructure that goes into, that music creation. Not just education, but a recording studio was tough to find. So we're going to build the best recording studio in the tri-state area and put it right in downtown. Another thing about that particular parcel is equity. It's located, like, no matter how you triangulate Southeast Michigan, the most convenient meeting place, it will not come as a surprise, would be right here in downtown. That's where you have all of your, queue line and your people mover and your bus routes and all of your arteries and streets, So really the location is critical for everyone to participate. And it has a new concert hall, first concert hall built in 80 years, because we know today's audiences, they just have different tastes and different patterns. And who wants to see Bad Bunny in a Grandpa's Theater? I know, because I run a Grandpa's Theater. We're 96 years old, But the idea is that accessibility is key. And we know it works because we did the multicultural programming. And if we carry those ideas over here, everyone participates. It's not okay for one demo or even three, different small micro communities to embrace the new building. It's everybody. So to that end, you will see the same programming philosophies that we used in music hall in the new building by inviting organizations to participate. We say that the building is you. What we're doing is we're taking Detroit's attractions and we're putting them into a welcome center, like what it really is a display of all of Detroit's attractions. And we have so many of them, but no one has actually put them together into sort of one menu, so that, if you live in this particular cultural community, you're going to see all 25 on display where you wouldn't today. And if you're a tourist coming in from out of town, this is a way to engage in the city.
So this is it's amazing and it's extraordinary. And right, we get a sense of the breadth and the impact that you'll be able to take, and also the kind of historical trajectory that led to this moment, and that makes it make so much sense. What I'd love to also kind of get is, you as the leader, as the administrator of this. We have so many people who are watching who have to tackle different things. It could be a construction project and programming, but have to tackle that breadth. And just wondering, are there any leadership approaches that you use so that you don't get overwhelmed? Because while all of this is happening, you've still got programming going on, you've still got all of the regular things you're doing, and you have to oversee finance and fundraising, and of course the fundraising piece for the building and all of that. As a leader, do you have any key approaches that you would want to share that you're like, this is what not only keeps me together for all this, but actually enables me to really be thriving and to be successful?
It'll come as no surprise. You're going to say your staff, right? But you see, your staff is a long-term project. It's like, okay, I'm going to hire really great staff people. That's really almost naive in its short-term thinking. To have a great staff, you have to work together for years, decades. So you need to create an environment that nobody wants to leave. I have zero turnover at the music hall. Most of the people that work here today have worked for me for 15 years because day to day, I try to create a great atmosphere. Like, this is the place that fulfills you. This is the place that gives you the feeling of being a part of something. So it's not a short-term fix. I'm going to hire a really expensive, woman out of Seattle, and I'm going to bring her in because she's an expert. I'm like, okay, I get that. But it really is much more complicated than that. You need a staff that know each other and work together with each other. They have a basic lane in which they travel, but should someone get ill, they're so familiar with what they do that we can double dip on that, where you don't have to have this really deep bench. I often say, we have 287 employees. The new building, by the way, will have 446 employees. But really, here at the music hall, there's only about 25 of us that see every show, right? So that 25 is very tight. The rest are ushers and bartenders and barbacks and electricians and carpenters, But the 25 core, that we see each other almost 7 days a week. We don't separate our home life with our work life. It's just one life, Aaron. And so we have this kind of spirit here of this is our life. And so I don't separate it. And so we know each other's husbands and wives and children, and
Right. And if you were to kind of share, if someone was looking and saying, what are those core values or core principles of the work environment that you kind of focus on trying to not just create, but nurture, how would you describe that to someone else who's saying, I would like to replicate something like that in my institution?
It's really instilling in your staff the idea that we're doing something very, very important. We are lifting up a city. We're lifting up an entire region. When they say hearts and minds, that is not overstating our goal. We are absolutely committed to the community. So we do that with programming, sure, one show at a time, one education program at a time. But we all think we're important. And we are important. Now, whether that's true or not true, we believe it, Aaron. That's it. We believe that we're important and we're doing something very important that's much larger than just putting on a concert.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that there are not just tens, hundreds of thousands of people in the community who agree about that level of importance that all of you have. It really is extraordinary. And so as you look now at kind of the future and the unfolding, next couple of years, any kind of key things you're like, this is what I'm most looking forward to. There's going to be this moment when I'm either standing here or doing this, and this is what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I do. Detroit, I just want to say to everybody, it's time to visit Detroit. You don't know Detroit. Oh, I know Detroit. No, you don't. I don't know Detroit because we're growing. And out my window there, you're going to see cranes, and Detroit is, over 300 years old, and I think of it like a person, and you go through phases and transitions, and we are now going through yet another transition. And where we're going, I don't know. To be honest, it really has me very curious. But it's also younger generations. So my job is to lift up the younger generations. We're in a position where okay, we're not going to totally understand some of their points of view, but it's not our job. They're here to inherit the city, but what we do have is money and power, and we're older, and and we really dedicate ourselves to their ideas. Whatever their ideas are, they're going to be running the town. So I think that that's the best thing that we can do for them, is to dump all of our energy into their ideas.
I
Yeah.
love that. Absolutely love that. So, unfortunately, we are just about out of time, but I always like to ask of all of my guests in this work, there's got everything about you just is so positive and forward thinking and forward looking and inspirational, a catalyst for our community. But there's got to be some tough days when it seems like certain challenges might be insurmountable. And just wondering during the tough times as a leader, where do you either turn for inspiration, for strength, for comfort as a leader during like the toughest of times?
Well, I love music. That will be no surprise. And so I definitely get a lot of inspiration from music during the tough times, because we can cover subjects in music in a much deeper, richer way than other forms. But also, I never forget to keep things in context. You know, you don't have to know exactly where you're going. It is the journey. So day by day, you buy low, sell high. But I mean that as a metaphor of like, you do your best every day and have faith that your best led to some milestone that gave you the energy then to shoot for the next milestone. You just do your best every day. You don't have to have all the answers. I don't know where we're going, but it's a very exciting ride.
Vince Paul, you truly are one of the arts engines who is powering human creativity in our world. Thank you so much for everything you do for our community, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much, Aaron. You're the same.